and a professor at Shawnee State University in Ohio. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Last night's airstrikes on a Syrian airbase, ordered by President Trump, provoked a forceful response from Russia. A spokesman for Russian President Vladimir Putin called the American actions a violation of international law and said they dealt a significant blow to relations between Russia and the U.S. To help us walk through what this means is Stephen Sestanovich. He's a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. He's a Russia watcher. He was the American ambassador at large to the former Soviet Union. Steve, thanks for coming in today.
Pleasure.
In the hours since the American airstrike, Russia has frozen cooperation with the U.S. in Syria. Russia has pledged to bolster the Syrian military capacity. To put it mildly, it sounds like Moscow is very upset.
Well, they are upset, but I think they're trying to read the situation carefully. And you see some of that in the mix of statements that they've issued. On the one hand, they've denounced the American strike fiercely. On the other hand, they've belittled its effectiveness. They said few of the cruise missiles hit their target. So they want to leave themselves some room to maneuver while they figure out what we're doing.
On the American side, there are reports that senior military officials are looking into whether Russia might have participated in the chemical weapons attack if there were Russians on the base from which the planes took off. If that were found to be the case, that sounds like it could be disastrous for U.S.-Russian relations.
Well, certainly Secretary Tillerson mentioned this possibility last night.
I want you guys to hear this, because at the end of the day, you need to understand there's a war coming.
Discovered that the Russians had actually been,
and I have nothing against Russia.
I think that would
but politics
undermine trust
and law are getting involved.
How important is
and
Syria
there's nothing about history or treaties
Russia
going on here.
Russia has been an ally of the Assad family for decades. It has treated Syria as its principal foothold in the region. And for Putin, the military intervention in Syria over the past year and a half has been maybe his biggest foreign policy success outside of the annexation of Crimea. It has been an assertion of Russian power unlike anything that we've seen in decades.
Russia has a view of its long game in Syria. I assume the United States has a view of what its long game in Syria is. Do our interests really conflict in that country? Is there something geostrategically vital about it?
Well, the Russians have been very encouraged by what they heard from President Trump on the campaign trail. But this has been a very disappointed expectation on their part. Instead of partnership against ISIS, they've seen the United States essentially undertake its military actions against ISIS on its own. Instead of tolerating Assad, which is where American policymakers seem to be heading for a while, they now have struck Assad militarily. The picture of convergent interest is kind of a fading one.
And all of this you have to square with an administration which was criticized for being too close to Russia, for Trump and Putin being too friendly.
They're friendly.
That is a fading memory too. Really, since election day and
one country against
the inauguration, the Russians have been coming to grips with
it's just not going to work.
Realization that President Trump probably can't deliver on the kind of rapprochement that they anticipated. All of those pictures of Putin and Trump kissing and European murals, so 2016 from my point of view.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is expected to arrive in Moscow on Tuesday.
Don't see it.
That was long in the works.
But change is coming.
Well,
and is it going to be change that we want?
They certainly see Tillerson now as an
people of the United States of
American policy. What they
big
want
time
to know from him is this a
what
one-off punishment
that
of Assad
Russia
for bad
wants
behavior,
and what
or
we
is
want?
This now a sign of a new
ask yourself
against Assad by the United
Comment
States
down
and
at the
its
bottom.
allies? Because if